If I stood in front of you right now and told you that the very cup you cradle every morning, the one that feels safe and comforting, might actually be pushing your risk of stroke higher, would you pause and believe me? Millions pour that daily brew without a second thought, not realizing that certain coffees can quietly strain the heart and brain more than they strengthen the body. The tricky part? You won't see it written on a label. You won't notice it at first glance. And that's why this conversation matters. Stroke is now the 5th leading cause of death in the U.S., striking nearly 800,000 people each year. Imagine how many lives might have been spared if the difference between a safe cup and a dangerous one had been clearer. So let me ask you, how often do you drink coffee? Is it part of your morning rhythm? No exceptions? Or do you only sip it once in a while? If it's every day, think of it as 1. If it's only sometimes, think 0. Your story, your pattern, might be the sign someone else needs to see before it's too late. Let's start with what many consider refined, even elegant. Unfiltered coffee. The French press, the Turkish brew. Rich, bold, luxurious. But there's a catch. Without a paper filter, compounds like cafestal and coeal glide straight into your system. They may sound harmless, yet they work quietly against you, nudging cholesterol upward, weakening blood vessels, layering plaque little by little. Over time, those changes can trigger a storm in the brain that no one is prepared for. I once knew a man who loved his French press, swearing it was the more natural, healthier way. But his test results told another story, cholesterol creeping higher, his heart struggling. The moment he swapped his press for a filter, things shifted. Numbers improved. His strength returned. That thin piece of paper stood between danger and protection. Then came another trend, bursting through wellness circles like a wildfire. Bulletproof coffee. Butter, oil, coffee blended together, marketed as the secret to endless focus and energy. Sounds clever, looks modern. But what hides inside? Saturated fat, thickening the flow of blood, pushing arteries harder than they were built to handle. A grandmother I knew followed this ritual faithfully, believing it would keep her sharp and strong. Yet her cholesterol climbed higher than it had in decades. Not from desserts, not from fast food, just from her morning health drink. When she let it go and went back to black coffee with a splash of almond milk, her body eased, her energy returned. If you crave that smoothness, plant-based milk is a far better way forward. And we can't ignore the third trap, the one hiding in plain sight. It's everywhere: menus, cafes, coffee chains. Sweetened lattes, caramel drizzles, whipped cream mountains. They feel like joy in a cup, but behind the sweetness lies sugar and fat, dragging your blood sugar up and down, exhausting insulin, laying the groundwork for diabetes, weight gain, and hypertension, the very path to stroke. I think of a man who treated himself daily to one of these blended desserts. It seemed innocent, a little happiness to break the day. Years later, the diagnosis came: type 2 diabetes. His indulgence had been whittling at his health all along. When he traded it for an unsweetened cold brew with cinnamon or vanilla, his health began to rebound, and his strength came back. See, it's not about giving up coffee. It's about wise choices. A filter here, a swap there, less sugar, more care. Tiny changes that guard the heart, protect the brain, and keep you standing strong. But let's face another truth. The danger isn't always sugar or fat. Sometimes it's the overload of caffeine. Too many believe that if 1 cup sparks the day, 3 or 4 must be better. But the body doesn't play by those rules. Cold brews, double shots, canned energy coffees, they aren't harmless jolts. They're tidal waves of caffeine that squeeze blood vessels, spike pressure, and rattle the heart. In the brain, that chaos can open the door to a stroke without a single warning. I once met a truck driver who leaned on energy coffees to survive long stretches on the road. At first, they felt like allies. But soon, the headaches pounded, dizziness set in, and his body sent alarms he couldn't ignore. The doctor made it plain. His heart was failing not from fatigue, but from the caffeine overload hammering it daily. Cutting back to 1 steady morning cup and water through the afternoon gave him back his balance. Sometimes moderation is the real miracle. And here's where the risk grows even heavier. Imagine someone already fighting high blood pressure. The heart is already strained, the arteries already stretched. Now layer on heavy caffeine. It's like piling sandbags on a cracked bridge. It only takes one hard push for the whole thing to break. A grandmother I knew adored her coffee, cup after cup, despite her doctor's warnings. Until one morning, when her chest tightened, her vision blurred, and fear filled the room. It wasn't a stroke, but it was close enough to serve as a warning. She listened this time. She cut down to 1 cup and filled her afternoons with herbal teas. Her blood pressure slowly began to calm, her body breathing lighter with each choice. If you're battling hypertension, that's the path: lighter cups, decaf, or teas. The heart and brain can only fight so long before they give out. Yet here's the good news. Coffee isn't the enemy. When brewed wisely, it can be a gift. And sometimes the smallest shift makes all the difference. That thin paper filter, the one in your drip machine, catches the oils that raise cholesterol while letting the comfort through. It turns a ritual into protection, a habit into a safeguard for your heart and mind. I once knew a man who swore by his strong, unfiltered brew. He believed anything lighter would taste weak, almost empty. But the day he made the switch, something surprising happened. His body felt freer, his numbers fell into safer ranges, and his mornings kept the warmth he longed for. What he discovered wasn't just a smoother sip, it was peace of mind. The beauty of coffee is often found not in more, but in less. A single cup of black coffee, untouched by sugar or cream, carries antioxidants that fight inflammation, help blood flow, and sharpen the mind. But the secret is balance. 1 cup, savored slowly, can be a steady companion. Too many, and that same comfort turns into a weight you didn't expect. I think of a mechanic who rarely set his mug down, from sunrise until night. Over time, his heart pounded faster, his sleep grew thin. The answer wasn't to abandon coffee completely. It was to strip it back to 1 thoughtful cup. He traded the spoonfuls of sugar for cinnamon, swapped excess for moderation, and what came back to him was rest, calm, and the comfort he loved, without the price. That's the lesson coffee whispers. It isn't about denial, it's about wisdom. It's about finding that line where joy and health meet, then holding it close. And for those who believe that removing caffeine strips coffee of its soul, there's more to the story. Decaf still holds gifts worth keeping. Polyphenol that quiet inflammation, strengthen vessels, and guard gently against decline. For hearts that beat too quickly, for nights already restless, decaf isn't a lesser choice. It's a way to keep the ritual without carrying the burden. I remember a retired nurse who dreaded the racing heart that followed her morning cup. When her doctor nudged her toward decaf, she feared losing the flavor she loved. But when she found a dark roast decaf, the taste stayed while the strain vanished. Sleep returned, mornings brightened. She often said she hadn't given up coffee at all. She had gained both coffee and calm. If you're curious, try decaf made through gentle methods like the Swiss water process. Let it become your evening comfort, free of the fear of sleepless hours. But coffee has another story to tell, one written in the fire of its roasting. As beans darken, something remarkable emerges: melanoidins. These compounds may help guard the brain against the very proteins that rob memory and dim the mind. Dark roasts don't just fill the room with smoke and boldness. They may be laying down a shield. I think of a retired musician who always favored light roasts, convinced their brightness meant health. Then he gave a darker brew a chance. What he found wasn't only deeper flavor, but clearer focus, sharper thought. The cup in his hands became more than pleasure, it became a promise. If you're ready to walk that path, choose a high-quality dark roast. Drink it plain, without drowning it in sugar or cream. Let its boldness remind you that sometimes strength is wisdom. Yet strength also shows up in gentler ways. While dark roasts give one kind of defense, lighter roasts, and even green coffee, carry another. These hold chlorogenic acid, a quiet ally that steadies pressure and balances sugar. It's less about fire, more about foundation. A librarian I once knew struggled with blood pressure that hovered just above normal. With guidance, she tried green coffee extract. Slowly, her numbers fell, her energy lifted, and her ritual stayed intact. You don't have to abandon your favorite roast. You can rotate, explore, bring in a lighter cup now and then. Even these small shifts build long-term strength. So here's the heart of it all. Coffee isn't just coffee. It can be a trap or a safeguard, depending on how it's brewed and how much you drink. From unfiltered cups that strain the arteries to decaf that restores rest, every sip points you somewhere toward risk or resilience. This isn't about giving up what you love. It's about making choices with care. Remember, no single drink defines your future. It's the rhythm of your life, rest, movement, peace, that carries the most weight. But if something as small as the cup in your hand can shield your brain and protect your heart, why not let it be your ally instead of your burden? So I'll leave you with this. How has coffee touched your life? Has it lifted you, unsettled your nights, raised your pressure, or given you peace? Share your story, because your words might be the spark that leads someone else to strength, to balance, and to a wiser way forward.